Okay, Assalamu alaikum everybody, welcome. Today's lecture is on Muharram. Muharram is coming up in a couple of days, and it's a very, very important month in the Islamic calendar. Does anybody know what the word Muharram actually means? Any ideas? Have a look at that word, and that will give you a clue. If you look at the end of that word, what does that say?
Ramadan.
Pardon?
Ramadan.
No, have a look at the end of the word Muharram. What does that word say?
Haram.
Haram. What does haram mean?
Forbidden.
Forbidden. Good. So, did you know that with the word Muharram, it's derived from the word haram, which means forbidden. It's one of the 4 forbidden months where sins are forbidden and wars are forbidden as well. And when you forbid all of those things, you end up as being sacred and holy. So this month becomes holy because all the fighting and all the sins are forgiven in it. If you look at the word haram, it has a double meaning. So if you look at the sacred mosque, a lot of people ask me this question. The sacred masjid in Makkah is called Masjid-e-Haram. And people say, why is it called Masjid-e-Haram? Because it's like a taboo subject, isn't it? Or haram, the haram sharif. You must have heard of those 2 words. What that word means is forbidden. Everything bad is forbidden in there, and that's what then makes it holy. Do you understand? That's what makes it sacred. So that is the example. There are 2 more words from the word haram. Does anybody know what that is? And that also comes under forbidden. It's quite interesting, actually, the root words. So ihram is one. When you're ihram, you're forbidden to do certain things. Ihram is an anagram of haram. What's the other one? Mehram? Yes? When you're mehram, they're forbidden to you as marriage partners. So these are all from that root word haram. I thought I'll add a bit of Arabic language in there as well. So this lecture is in 2 parts. As you already know, I loved history at school and I love looking at history, so this is a historical lecture. First we will cover the first of Muharram, which is very, very important to Muslims, which I will deal with in a minute. And then we will fast forward on to the 10th of Muharram. Okay, so I'm going to cover both today. There's 2 parts. I've done it in an interactive quiz style today. Whoever answers the most questions will get a prize, so that will keep you all awake throughout the whole program. And the other very important thing I need to mention to you is that Muharram is the last of the 4 sacred months. What are the other 3? You should all know this one. I do this nearly every lecture. Yes?
Rajab is one.
Yes, good.
Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijrah.
Zulqa'dah and Dhul Hijrah and then Muharram. Good. So 1 stands on its own and 3 come together in a row. And what happens is, after Muharram, the next month is Safar, and Safar within the Asian subcontinent, in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, in India, people say it's really bad luck. But there is nothing written that it is bad luck. People don't do weddings in there, you'll know what I'm talking about, you know, because you're from Pakistan. They don't do weddings in there, they don't do any parties in there, they think it's bad luck. The reason is it comes after the 3 holiest months, 3 holy months altogether, and then they think all of a sudden Safar after the 3 holy months is going to be bad luck. But there is no truth in that whatsoever. That's things that people have just made up. So I thought I'd mention that. The word Safar is from the word for 0 in Arabic. And did you know that before Islam came, did you know that in the 3 holiest months, people were looting each other, getting rid of all that, they were looting shops and money, and they ended up with 0 by Safar. Did you know that? And this is why the word Safar means 0. And this is how we get that month. So it's very, very interesting. Right, enough about Arabic language and things. Let's now move on to other things. So verily, the number of months with Allah is 12. Did you know that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the heavens and the earth, He already made 4 of those months holy already when He made the world. That is the right religion, so wrong not yourselves therein. So they are the 4 forbidden months, and in those months you're not allowed to kill or do any sins. That is actually mentioned in Surah Al-Tawbah, the Repentance, chapter 9, verse 36. And in Muharram, the first of Muharram relates to, marks the Islamic new calendar, which is very, very important in Islam. And there is a very big Islamic history behind the Islamic calendar, which we will talk about a little bit later. And Hijrah is the story. So many Muslims, I know they do not know the link, for example, between Hijrah and the New Year, but I'm going to do that link now. So who can now tell me what the word Hijrah means? Any ideas?
Journey.
Journey, good. Hajj, we talked about last time, is a specific journey to a specific place. With the root word in Hijrah, it just means journey. And it is in particular marks the anniversary of the immigration of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his followers from Makkah to Yathrib. Okay, Yathrib then later on became Medina. We will talk about all of that in a minute. So in order to understand how the Hijrah actually happened, we need to understand the history on how it built up to the Hijrah actually happening. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was living in Makkah, so why did he need to move to Medina? So this is now where we look at the history on how it actually happened. So my first quiz question, and I'm keeping an eye on answers, and I'm keeping them in my head, because the person who answers the most will get a prize afterwards. So the first question is, in Islamic history, what is the name of year when Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was born? Put your hands up, please. No shouting out. Let's have Muntaha first. The year of the elephant. Well done. Excellent. The year of the elephant, which is Fil. Now, what does that remind you of? Fil. It's in the Quran, isn't it? Yes?
After the surah.
Surah Al-Fil. Good. Well done. Now, did you know that just before the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was born, there was a huge, significant thing that happened in history? And what happened was, there was a king called Abraha. He was the ruler of Yemen, and he built a big, beautiful church in Yemen, and he decided to come and invade Arabia because he didn't want the Kaaba to be there anymore. He wanted to destroy the Kaaba, and because of that, what he wanted to do was he wanted everybody to go and do Hajj at his church. At this time, Hajj was happening around the Kaaba. Who out of here came to my History of Hajj lecture? Hajj was going on around the Kaaba, but it was all bad, wasn't it? Polytheists and idols and naked and whistling and that kind of stuff, clapping around it, going clockwise. So it was happening, and it was a center point of Arabia. So what happened then was, he wanted to invade, he wanted to destroy the Kaaba, and he wanted everybody to go and do Hajj in his church. And at the time, the Prophet's granddad, Abdul Muttalib, he was the caretaker of the Kaaba, and he had no army at all, nothing. So what happened was, they rode elephants. Okay, first of all, the people of Arabia had never seen an elephant before. They were really, really amazed at what an elephant actually was. They were really, really amazed at that. And when the army passed Taif, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute, this is why I'm mentioning this, there was lots and lots of people there worshipping a very prominent idol called Lat. They were worshipping him. There was a big shrine there, and they didn't want Abraha to come there when they saw him with all his elephants, and they actually directed him to the Kaaba so that he could quickly go there. They did not want him to go in there and invade where the big shrine of Lat was. And all this, like I said, will have significance later. So as the elephants came into Arabia, all the people of Arabia went up on the mountain, and they were really, really scared. There was no army because Abdul Muttalib didn't have an army, and they all watched the great big elephants marching towards the Kaaba, and they were really, really scared. Okay? There are 3 ways in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved the Kaaba. Does anybody know what the first thing is that happened?
The elephant stopped moving it when they got to a certain point towards the Kaaba.
Good, excellent, well done. So it says in the Quran, have you not seen how your Lord dealt with the people of the elephants? Did he not bring their plan to naught? So they had a plan, Allah had his own plan. The first thing that happened was the elephants stopped and they froze in the sand and they didn't move forward. No matter how much they were being whipped and pushed, they looked at the Kaaba and they looked scared. They didn't want to move forward. So that is the very first thing that happened. And then in Surah Al-Fil, how did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deal with the people of the elephant who were coming to destroy the Kaaba in Makkah? What's the next thing? Shall we have you at the
Birds
back?
with hot clay. Birds
Birds.
flying with hot clay or birds out things.
Yeah, they were not hot though, but that's still okay. Yes?
Baked.
Baked. Baked clay. Good. Well done, the brothers. I think they're going to win. Well done, the brothers, so far anyway. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent flocks of birds with pebbles in their mouth and they wore clay and the birds pelted those soldiers. Again, this is in Surah Al-Fil in chapter 105 of the Quran. And what happened was those stones hit those soldiers and they made them look like an empty field of stalks and straw of which the corn has been eaten up. That is actually in the last verse, verse 5 in chapter 105. And what happened is those pieces of corn, they became like husks of corn. Those soldiers became like husks of corn. You know, you get the little skins coming off corn and they're dry and flaky. That's what they became basically. So isn't that just so amazing? Those birds were called ababils and they are in the Quran and they have huge beaks, long pointy beaks as well. So the whole story is actually in the Quran. Now when that happened, the rest of the soldiers, they ran away all the way back to their own land, to Yemen. They didn't even proceed further. So the people of Makkah were saved and the Kaaba was saved, and that made the people think that where they are, something great is going to happen, because for a big major event like that to happen and for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect that Kaaba like that, and out of nowhere, in fact those birds actually came from a whirlwind that came, a sandstorm that came, those birds came out of. That's what it says in the tafsir anyway of the Quran. And it was quite amazing and they were scared. And then they thought, you know, something major is now going to happen. And something major did. Because in that very year is when Prophet Muhammad was born. In which city was he born in? Was he born in Medina, Jeddah, Taif or Makkah? Hands up if you know. Shall we have Brother Lone here, who's here today? The chairman of the mosque. Do you know or not?
Makkah.
Makkah, good. I'm just thought I'll include you while you're here, so that's really good. So yes, you are correct. The person who gets the most points will get a prize at the end. That's why I thought I'd better include you. I don't want you going on without having a mention. Okay, so he was born in Makkah. He was from the lineage of the Hashim, which was his great-granddad, Hashim. Abdul Muttalib was his granddad and Abdullah was his dad. His mum's name was Amna and Amna's dad was Wahab. So that is the progeny in which he came from. Whenever a prophet comes, they come from a certain tribe, and it is actually that tribe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to target. So that is very interesting. If you look at Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam, people said, you're just like people like us, you're just a man amongst us, why should we listen to you? The same with all the others. All the other prophets all came to their own people because that is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to target the message. As soon as he was born, there was blessing, so everybody knew that he was somebody really special. And in those days, people would employ wet nurses to help feed their children, and the children would go to the countryside for a little while and get fed. and Halima was the lucky person who was chosen, and she took Prophet Muhammad ﷺ to the countryside, and on her way, she was very, very poor, very poor. On her way to Makkah, her sheep were really skinny and frail, and on her way back, what happened to the sheep? Does anybody know what happened to her sheep? No. Why would they die when Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is with her? There's going to be blessings, isn't there? Girls are not doing so well today. Come on, brothers. What happened to her sheep?
They found grass to eat.
And
And they got fed.
they became fat and juicy, and their udders were full of milk, and the milk started trickling out on their way, on the way to the countryside. As soon as that happened, she knew that, you know, this baby, it's going to have many blessings, because as soon as that baby came, it put barakah in her house. And then when Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was 4 years old, he was quietly playing in the countryside, and 2 angels came, and they opened up his heart, and they took out the black spot that is in your heart, which you might remember me talking about in my Jannah lecture, that will be removed when we go to Jannah. All the bad is in that black spot. It's all the hatred, the jealousy, the envy that everybody has in them. But for the first time, with Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, 2 angels came, and they washed his heart, and they took out the black spot. That happened twice in his lifetime. Once here, and once before he went up to Miraj, up to Jannah. And did you know that he came back and he told Halima about this? Do you think she doubted him? This is a 4-year-old. 4-year-olds can lie. Do you think she doubted him?
No.
Do you know she really believed him? And that's written in the seerah of the Prophet. She actually believed him and thought, yes, do you know what? That really did happen, because I believe that is a really, really special child. So when Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was then sent back to Makkah, so he grew up as a shepherd. All the prophets grew up as shepherds, did you know? They all grew up to learn how to herd all the cows and the sheep and everything. All of them grew up as shepherds in their early lives. And then when he went back to Makkah, and he grew up there, he saw a lot of bad. And these are the times before Prophet Muhammad ﷺ came. There was so much bad happening on the land. Who knows what the very first bad thing was happening in Arabia, the major thing? Yes?
Paganism, worshipping idols.
Good. Excellent. Paganism and worshipping lots and lots of gods. Okay? And my next quiz question is, which 3 major idols were worshipped by pagans of Arabia and are mentioned in Surah An-Najm? I want you to mention all 3. Put your hands up if you know, no shouting out. What are the 3 gods that they were worshipping? I have done this before in my quiz, I've done this before in the last lecture. Anybody?
One is Uzza.
Uzza is one of them, good. This is why I always say, do not shorten your names. I know a Uzair, and it's not this Uzair, it's a different Uzair, and his nickname is Uzza. And I had to tell his mom, by the way, Uzza is a name of a idol. It's a goddess, actually. Okay? So Uzza is one of them. Any more? No? Okay, I'll tell you. So it is Lat, Uzza, and Manat. Okay? Now, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only mentions names if they have a specific significance. For example, Bilqis is not mentioned in the Quran. Asya is not mentioned in the Quran, the Pharaoh's wife is not mentioned in the Quran by name. Only significant people are mentioned in the Quran. Hanan was mentioned in the Quran as Musa's chief advisor, and that was for a reason, because later on the Rosetta Stone was found with his name in it. So why are Lat, Uzza and Manat mentioned in the Quran? How are they relevant? Who knows that question?
The main
Anybody?
gods?
They were the major idols at Makkah.
They were the major idols, but why mention these three names? Why not mention the 360 idols? Did you know there were over 360 idols that the Arabs were worshipping, one for each day of the year? Why not mention all of them? Why those three?
Was it these specific idols that they asked for specific favours from, like wealth, etc., that they were attributed to these specific idols specifically?
That's not the answer I'm looking for, because did you know each idol had a specific reason for being there? Okay? Did someone get it?
I'm just guessing, but
Yes.
did they find these idols afterwards with their names on them and stuff? And they-
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Good. They are shrines named after these idols. I mentioned to you Taif for a reason, didn't I? Didn't I say that they were worshipping Lat? There was a big goddess there. They were worshipping Lat, and those people said, don't come in here, this is where our big shrine is. Go to Makkah. Go over there. This is the way to the Kaaba. Okay? They diverted them. These idols and their big, huge temples are still found today. And they were, one is in Makkah, one is in Taif, and one is in Hijaz. Those three areas. So they're there for a reason. They were devoted to those three areas. And Lat, like I said, was the chief idol in Taif, and the Bani Taqif, they were devoted to that goddess. And all three of them were goddesses as well. On top of that, they were not even gods. What does that remind you of? Paganism. So there's your clue. Okay? So all of them had temples. This is the reason. Okay? So we have done already worshipping lots of gods. There are now 4 other things massive that were happening in Arabia, and I just want you to name 3 more. What was the second thing that was happening in Arabia? And if you get this wrong, I will get cross. Yes.
Poetry.
No. Oh, God. Think of our religion. Think of the crux of our religion. I say this every time. I'm going to choose, I've forgotten your name.
Zayla. They were the rich ones sharing their wealth.
That was not the second thing. If you are a Muslim, you will know these 4 things.
Praying.
They're
Remembrance.
forgetting Allah.
Yeah.
Right, that's the first. The second one is people had completely forgotten about God. Either they were worshipping 360 gods, or they'd completely forgotten about them. Do you know why? They were too busy partying, drinking, gambling, doing poetry competitions. Okay? Gambling, poetry competitions, and all of that kind of stuff. So they'd completely forgotten the remembrance of Allah. This is why we're not allowed to do these things. Okay? What's the next thing? Think of your religion in order. Think of your pillars. I do not want to say it. Think of your pillars. What's the third bad thing happening in Arabia? Yes, do you know?
Was it that they were going around the Kaaba not fully clothed and everything?
Is that the 5 pillars? Right, anybody else? Yes,
The poor,
Seema.
they'd forgotten about the poor.
Right,
They'd
that's...
forgotten how to feel.
Yeah.
They had gotten so rich, they'd forgotten how to feel what the poor
Yeah.
felt like.
Yeah, that's the 4th thing. You're not thinking, do you know your pillars in order? That's the first thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought I was doing
So the first one is the Shahada.
Yeah.
The second one is to do with prayer. The Zakat is the third one we're thinking of here. So for Zakat, the rich are not looking after the poor. Okay? They are not looking after the poor, so they're not giving them money. They're not bothering to give them money. Okay? This is where the Zakat pillar comes from. The 4th one is there's no concept of feeling how the poor feel. They did not know how it even felt to be poor. They'd been rich for centuries. The Quraysh tribe, by the way, were very powerful and they were very, very rich. And they did not even know what it felt like to be poor. For centuries they'd been rich. It's a bit like in England. You don't know what it feels like to be poor unless you fast, do you? Okay? So please remember these. This is the crux of your religion. If you don't know this, go back and name your 5 pillars again. Honestly, that's how I feel about this if you don't know this. Okay, so Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was of a very good nature, detested all this stuff that was going on in his society. He was very, very upset about all of this greed and forgetting God and all these things. So it was actually near to 610 AD. It wasn't really 610 AD yet. It was actually in the 36th year of his birth that he started going to meditate in the cave of Hira on the summit of the mountain called Jabal Nur, which means mountain of light. And he would go there and he would spend days there, okay, in that cave. And it was there that one day Jibreel alayhi salam came to visit him there. And it's the same Jibreel alayhi salam who came to visit Maryam and said, you're going to have a baby and you're going to call it Jesus, Mary. Okay, the same angel Gabriel who visited him there. And we did some of this story in Ramadan. He showed him some words. Prophet Muhammad could not read. He never ever went to school. He was completely unlettered. He said, sorry, I can't read. And then Jibreel alayhi salam asked him again, read, for the second time. And again he said, I cannot read. And then for the third time, Jibreel alayhi salam squeezed him really tight until he could hardly breathe. And when he looked up, there was a miracle and he could read the words. And the words were from the Quran, okay? Iqra was the first word. So what was the first Quranic verse revealed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Please think about this before you answer it. Anybody over there? No? Yes.
It's Surah Al-Anam, isn't it?
Not Alam? No?
Ikra Bismillah.
No, it's not Ikra.
Yeah,
Ikra
but what's
Bismillah.
the name of the surah?
Surah Alaq.
Alaq.
Oh,
Good.
sorry.
That is the only answer that I will accept. Okay? Alaq is the answer, not Iqra. A lot of people think it's Iqra, the name of the surah. The name of the surah is Alaq. And these were only the first 5 ayahs of the Quran came down. Only the first 5 ayahs of this chapter came down.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق
Recite in the name of your Lord who created.
خلق الإنسان من علق
Created man from a clinging substance.
اقرأ وربك الأكرم
Recite, and your Lord is the most generous.
الذي علم بالقلم
Who taught by the pen.
علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم
Taught man that which he knew not.
And we all know this story already. He was shaken and stirred. He didn't know what was going on. He was scared. He went out of the cave and he thought, maybe I'm just thinking this. And then Jibreel alayhi salam appeared again and told him that you are the Prophet of Allah. Okay, and he went back and told his wife. What was the age of the Prophet when he first received revelation, Nasrin?
40 years old.
Good, well done, excellent. Okay, 40, excellent, well done. And the first to accept Islam after Prophet Muhammad was a woman. Who was she out of these? Was it Asma, wife of Prophet Muhammad's friend, Fatima, Prophet Muhammad's daughter, Khadija, Prophet Muhammad's wife, Halima, Prophet Muhammad's foster mother? Who was it? Who can I choose? Someone different this time. Let's have you. Yes.
Me.
Yes.
Khadija.
It was Khadija, well done. Okay, so did you know that she was the first one to accept Islam? The first child to accept Islam was?
Child.
Yes.
Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu.
Good, well done. I have asked that in particular, that question, because he will be covering him a lot more later on in Muharram. So well done for that. Did you know that for the first 3 years the Messenger of Allah only secretly preached Islam and he only invited his direct family first towards Islam. Some of them accepted, but most of his uncles rejected Islam. What was the very first I can't think of the word, what was their first reaction when he first told them all of this, do you think? It's written in the Quran. What happens to all prophets?
Accusing them of insane
Yes.
or any sort of, witchcraft and that type of...
Yes, that comes later, but the very first thing was what? What did they do with Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam?
Mocked him.
They mocked him and they laughed at him. Okay? It tells you in the Quran, and how many a prophet we sent among the former peoples, but they would not come to them a prophet except that they used to ridicule him. And that is in Az-Zukhruf, chapter 43, verses 5 to 7. So it actually does tell you that that is what used to happen. And then later on, they laughed at him, and then they said to him, you're not like the other prophets, you don't show us miracles. Isa alayhi salam showed us miracles. And he used to, sort out all the blind and the lepers and gave life to the dead. You don't do none of that. And Musa alayhi salam, he showed us miracles with his staff. You're not a real prophet. So they mocked him. And they said to him, the Jews asked him, show us a miracle like the other miracles. So which great miracle of the Prophet does Surah Al-Qamar refer to? I think Fasila was first there.
He split the moon.
Good. Shaq-e-Qamar. Okay, it's mentioned in the Quran. Hazrat Anas radiallahu anhu, the people of Makkah requested Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam to show them a miracle, and he showed them the splitting of the moon. That is in Bukhari, and it's also in Surah Qamar. And it tells you exactly what you said about the magic as well in there. So the hour has come near and the moon has split, and if they see a miracle, they turn away and say passing magic, and they denied and followed their inclinations. But for every matter is a time of settlement. And that's actually mentioned in the surah, which is named after the moon, Qamar, chapter 54, verses 1 to 3. Very, very interesting. So first they laughed at him, then they thought he was a magician, and he was just doing magic. They didn't believe in him, and it was all verbal abuse at first. The verbal abuse then slowly changed to physical abuse. And we had now so many stories. We've got here, woe to human beings. Whenever a messenger came to them, they mocked him. That is in Surah Yasin, in verse 30. And there was this lady, old lady, and she used to put bad food outside his house. It was rotten meat. And she would throw rubbish on him every time in his pathway. He used to walk barefoot a lot of the time, and there was often thorns as well in his pathway and rubbish outside that he would then pick up quietly. This is a form of sadaqah actually, did you know, in our faith, to pick up rubbish from the pathway. He used to pick it up, quietly put it away. He never said anything to her, ever. His way was just to be patient and never say anything. He was such a lovely nature and a brilliant role model for all of us. This is why we try and follow his sunnah. So he completely ignored her, and every day there'd be rubbish in his pathway. Every day he came out, there'd be rubbish meat, rotten meat outside his house, letting off a big stink. And then one day that old lady, he opened his door and there was no rubbish there, there was no meat there. So he asked somebody that, you know that old lady who usually puts rubbish in front of all our paths, where is she then? Where's she gone? Is she okay? And somebody said that she is really ill. She's actually can't get out of bed. She's in her house. So do you know what? Most people would say what goes round comes round, serves her right. But he didn't do that. He actually went round her house to see how she is. And he said, are you okay? I heard you're not feeling well. Do you know what? She started crying. She could not believe that a man who she'd done so much wrong to had actually come to her house to see how she is. And she said, I don't know what kind of religion it is that you're preaching, but if that's what your religion preaches, to be nice to even people who've done evil to you, I want to be like you, she said. And do you know what? She took the Shahada. So that is how he won people's hearts, by being kind to them, even though they were horrible to him. But the evilest of people, believe it or not, were his own family. And you know, you do normally get that with a lot of people that I talk to. The family are the last ones normally who listen to you, because they've seen you how you were, and they don't get it, how you can change all of a sudden. So family was the worst. And his uncles were full of pride, and they were really rich. The richer you are, the more pride you have. Okay? So my next question is, who was knowledgeable, wise, but very cruel and evil person of Makkah? The Prophet called him the Pharaoh of this Ummah. Who was that person? Put your hands up if you know. Yes.
Abu Muttalib.
No, that was his granddad.
Oh.
That was his granddad. Yes?
Abu Lahab.
It wasn't Abu Lahab, no?
Abu Jahl was it?
Abu Jahl, good, well done. Abu Jahl was the evilest of his uncles. Although, did you know, towards the end of his life, he did become Muslim. And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you remember from the marriages lecture, married one of his daughters to make the connection stronger with him. So that you might remember from the marriages lecture. So yes, it was Abu Jahl. He was from the same tribe of Hisham. And he was called the Pharaoh of this Ummah. The next one, he was the uncle of the Prophet for whom Surah Al-Masad was revealed. His wife was as evil and arrogant as him. Who was that?
Abu Lahab.
That was Abu Lahab, good. And this is the surah that was revealed. He was called the father of flames. Did you know what his name was? Who knows what his real name was? You will be shocked at this one. Abu Lahab was Abdul Uzza. Abd means worshipper, Al means of, Uzza is that God that I talked to you about earlier. So he was one of the chief worshippers of that God, Abdul Uzza. And he was called the father of flames for a couple of reasons. The first reason was he was always used to get really angry, and he could never ever suppress his anger. So he was always red-faced. But later on, when the ayah came down of him that is going to go to hellfire, he was then called the father of flames. So this surah tells you, and it's called Al-Lahab or Al-Masad, it's got a double name. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, perish the hands of the father of flame, perish he, no profit to him from all his wealth and all his gains, burned soon will he be in a fire of blazing flame. And his wife, do you know what she used to do? She used to take palm leaf fibers out of the leaves. They were like spindles. When you open up a palm leaf and you take out the little strips, they become like needles, glass needles. And she used to put them on the floor in his pathway. And he used to walk barefoot a lot of the time, and the splinters used to get under his feet. So that is how she is mentioned in this ayah, that with the same fibers, a twisted rope will be made of the palm, and the leaf fiber will go around her own neck. She will be hung on the Day of Judgment with the same spindles that she used to put on the floor. Isn't that scary? Now, when that ayah came down, a lot of people became Muslims straight away. They thought, gosh, we don't want to end up like him. Did he become Muslim? No, he was haughty, and he didn't believe in the Quran, so he didn't become Muslim. And then the final straw, this is all leading up to the Hijrah, like I explained, was the boycotting. There was huge boycotting going on. Some of the people who had become Muslim, their businesses were boycotted. So whoever from the Quraysh tribe became Muslim, the boycotting started off their businesses. And their main job was merchants. They were all merchants. So people would not buy from their shops, and then their businesses would go down, and then they would become really, really poor. And Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was hit very, very badly with that. towards the end of Khadija radiallahu anha's life, she didn't have any money, yet she was such a noble woman. She had brought in so much money from her father and previous husbands. She was a very, very rich lady. But towards the end of her life, the poor thing was actually begging on the streets for money because they didn't have money to even feed themselves. It was very, very sad. A lot of the people at that time left Makkah and went to Yathrib or to other places within Arabia because they could not deal with the boycotting. And some people, they would quietly pray at home in the comfort of their own homes to Allah, and outside they would show they're just like the other Quraysh. So they were quietly being hypocrites. They were being hypocrites basically, pretending that they are religious when they wanted to be, basically, and in front of all the evil people they were saying, we're just like you, just so that the business won't get boycotted. But it does say in the seerahs at that time, the people who persevered, their hearts were pure, very, very pure and very strong towards Islam. So poor Khadija radiallahu anha passed away, and that was a very big blow in the Prophet's life. Which year of the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is known as Amul Huzn, the year of sorrow? Who can answer that question? I'll give you a clue what happened in that year.
Oh, sorry, is that name you wanted?
Yes, I just want to know what happened in that year for it to be called the Amul Huzn, the year of sorrow. I think you was before the other brother.
It's the year that Khadija radiallahu anha passed away.
Oh, I meant this one, sorry. Yes, that was one of them. And do you know the other?
His uncle died.
Good. Abu Talib, who had brought him up all his life, passed away as well. So there was a very big thing. The year in which both the Prophet's sallallahu alaihi wasallam's wife Khadija, his uncle Abu Talib, and Abu Talib passed away, both of them. Okay? They both passed away in that year, so it was a very, very sad year for him. He was boosted up that year. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did the mirage in that year. So he went up in that same year to Jannah, had a look around. That's my lecture that we've already done on Jannah. And there, the second pillar of Islam was revealed. Start remembering God 5 times a day. Start remembering God. Prayer was then revealed there. So 2 of the pillars were revealed while he was in Makkah. Okay? And this pillar had just started, and it hadn't started being practiced because of all the problems that were going on. Okay? And then there was another very, very big blow. First of all, there were only 170 followers, including women and children, after nearly 12 years of preaching. Only 170 followers, which, mind you, is more than what Hazrat Nuh had. Poor thing had only like a handful, didn't he? So what happened then was he decided, let me try preaching outside of Makkah and see if the people are a bit more better, okay? Because did you know that some people had actually gone to Ethiopia, and there was a Christian king there, and he had welcomed the Muslims. He was a really nice king, and the Prophet had written letters to him, and he had accepted all those refugees. So he thought, maybe if I go out of Makkah, where people are more humble and more poorer, they might accept Islam more. So that is when he went to where? Does anybody know? This was the last resort that made the Hijrah happen. He couldn't take any more after this. It's very sad. Where did he go? Which city did I mention earlier on, where there was that big Lat temple going on down there? Taif. Good. So he went there, he did a sermon up on the mountain, and he went with Zayd, his not his son-in-law, his adopted son, okay? And the people threw stones at him, and he was really badly hurt. He got a stone here, blood was flowing out. He ran away, and while he was running away, his foot was also hurt as well. So that was the last resort. He went to this exact place, which is still there now, the place where Holy Prophet ﷺ rested and prayed for the people of Taif. He prayed his salah there because remember the hukum of salah had already been revealed, and he prayed there for those people. He said, please let those people, get hidayah and come to Islam. And they didn't accept him because this Lat, goddess, was there, which they really, really valued highly, and they were worshipping her, and they'd made temple around her, and their whole life was around this goddess Lat. Okay? And the last resort after that was that then when he came back to Makkah, people started plotting to kill him. People didn't want him around, and they started plotting to kill him. So he then got a vibe from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, go to Yathrib. When you go to Yathrib, you will be safer there. You will have to leave Makkah. He did not want to leave Makkah because his whole life was in Makkah. All his family, everybody, everywhere he had grown up, everybody who he knew were all in Makkah. The Kaaba was there. He did not want to leave it, but he had to. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, and he told him to leave and go to Yathrib. So one day he escaped, and this is in 622 AD. Okay, at that time, I will talk about the Islamic calendar later because that happened later. He escaped with his best friend, Abu Bakr. Okay, he was also his, later on became his father-in-law as well, because his daughter Aisha was his wife. Okay, and in his bed, in place of him, Ali, again we've come across the word Ali, who was his son-in-law and his cousin, was put in his bed, and when the assassins came to kill him, they found Ali in his bed, and they asked Ali, where is he? Tell me now, where is he? He said, I don't know. He got a couple of slaps, but they didn't want him, they wanted Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they followed him, followed his footsteps into the desert. In those days, you just came out of Makkah and the desert started. And that's where the assassins then followed him. And with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he found a tiny little cave. It had a bigger opening at the back and a very small opening at the front. He ran away on his white camel called Qaswa. Qaswa has a huge role to play in this. And the name of the cave was Jabal Thor. Does anybody know what that means in Arabic? Thor. It means bull. Okay, bull. And they hid in that cave. And this is an actual real-life picture of that cave. As you can see, it is very, very small from the front. It's through here that he crawled. But at the back, there was a bigger opening, and they both put their camels at the back and parked their camels at the back. And it does tell you actually in Bukhari and Muslim the conversation that happened in that cave. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if one of them looks down to his feet, he will see us. So that tells you how low that gap was. However, assured him and said, oh Abu Bakr, what do you think of two persons when Allah is their third? So even there, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had great faith in his heart that don't worry, it's us two, but Allah is the third with us. That is actually in Bukhari and Muslim. So what happened there was they were really worried. They could see the assassins coming from far away. And it's quite amazing really how they were saved. How were they saved in that cave? Yes, let's have, I'm getting excited now, let's have Holly.
Is it a spider?
Spider, good. And, do you know the other thing?
He just spun the web.
He did spin the web. Well done, Holly. I'm so happy with you. You're going to make me cry in a minute. She's a new revert, and she knows more than the Muslims. Asmina? Birds, good, and a nest. Okay, good. I'm really happy. Well done. I'm so happy with you, Holly. Right. So, a spider came, a friendly spider, not a scary one, and the spider spun the web, a huge web within seconds across the front of the cave. Normally, a spider takes days. I don't know if anybody knows, did you know that the life cycle of a spider to make a web is a good couple of days? It takes days for a spider to make a web, a proper full-blown web. But within seconds, that spider built an entrance, a blockage, if you like, to the entrance of that cave. 2 beautiful white doves came, and they built a nest, again within seconds, at the front of the entrance of the cave. So when the assassins came, they looked, they did see the cave, they were hiding in there, and they thought, oh, I ain't going through that web, you go in there. And the other man goes, no, I'm not going in there. And the other man said, well, you can't be in there because that web has been there, looks like it's been there for days. A web, it couldn't have been just now we saw them running that way. So they're definitely not in there. Not only that, if he had gone in there, he would have had to step across that nest, and that nest would have got damaged when he went in. And that nest is still intact. Remember, it's a tiny little opening, isn't it? Okay? So now they're not in there, they said. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved him. Remember, Allah always saves prophets when they are in danger, major prophets. Okay? We know, for example, in the past when Ibrahim alayhi salam was thrown in the fire, Allah made it cool. We know that when Jonah got swallowed by the whale, he was still alive. The whale pushed him out. We know so many stories. Ismail alayhi salam was saved, wasn't he, when his dad had to kill him with the knife, and he got saved. Isa alayhi salam got saved when Allah lifted him up to Jannah. So we know Allah had to save him. He had to save him because is his mission complete yet why he came? No. Because all the people of Makkah have driven him out, his mission is not complete. The idols haven't gone yet. Okay? So after 3 days, approximately 3 days, they stayed in that cave. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helped them, protected them. The assassins had gone far away somewhere else in another desert. And then quietly, Qaswa the camel came out. Do you think they were scared as they were approaching Yathrib? Yes, they were very scared. They thought, gosh, what's going to happen now? We know what happened in Taif. Who knows what's going to happen when we get here? They'd never been there before. So they started coming quietly towards all the people in Yathrib. And as they were traveling up to Yathrib, they could see lots of crowds of people gathering round. And then they got really scared that what are they going to back to stone us? But did you know that those crowds were cheering? They were all welcoming him, and they were cheering. And as they got closer, they saw that those people had the Shahada up. They were holding banners with the Shahada up, which means that they had already become Muslim. Isn't that lovely? And then they had a duff. They had the duff, which is an Arabic instrument, like a tambourine, without the little jingles, and they were playing the duff, and they sang the most beautiful song. Here it is. This is the meaning of the song. The full moon is shining on us from the areas of gardens. We must offer thanks to Allah so long as anyone prays before Allah. And the one said to us, you have come with commands which we shall obey. You came and graced Yathrib, we salute and welcome you, O the best caller towards Allah. Now have you noticed in that word song it says Medina, okay? It is from that exact point that Yathrib became Medina, because Medina means city, and it became the city of the Prophet, Madinatun Nabi, that's where we get that from. Because after that, that was his home. But from that point, it became Medina because it marks the start of Islam. Just like, do you remember Bakka became Makkah when the start of Islam started there? Okay? So when we call Yathrib, Yathrib, we mean before the Prophet got there. When he got there, then all of a sudden it is now Medina. Okay? Does that all make sense? Did you know that before Islam got there were 3 Jewish tribes living there? And what happened was some of those people, after they were being boycotted, went to Yathrib, and they'd already spread Islam there before the Prophet got there. Did the Prophet know this though? The Prophet did not know none of this. They didn't have WhatsApp in those days. He didn't know none of this. Only Allah knew, which is why he sent him there to be protected. And when he got there, then he realized. Okay? And then everybody loved him. They all said, come to our house, come and stay around our house, because he didn't have a home and to live in. And he said, come to our house and come to our house. Everybody wanted him to come to his house. So he said, my Qaswa the camel, he will walk, and where he stops, that is where I will go to the house, and I will build the first mosque as well. So basically, after migration to Hijrah, to Medina, which Sahaba had the honor to host the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ for 7 months till his own house was built. Who knows the name of that Sahaba? Any ideas?
Was it Abu Hurairah?
No? No? No. Anybody else? It is actually, have you heard of the word Khalid?
Yeah.
Okay? But he's known as Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. Okay? So his full name is Khalid ibn Zayd ibn Kulayb, but he was known as Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. Imagine the Prophet coming to your house. Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing to do? So you can imagine how happy he must have been. So he actually hosted the Prophet there for 7 months. Now when he got there, the second pillar of Islam has already been revealed. The first pillar they've already accepted. They all had Shahada banners up. So he has to establish the second pillar. So what is the name of the first mosque that he built with his own hands, where a public prayer then took place? Anybody know? Who's been to Arabia? Who's been to down there? Yes?
Masjid Quba.
Correct, well done. I think you're on your way to the prize, but we'll see at the end. Muntaha's judging anyway. I told him to keep an eye because I don't want to be biased. So Muntaha will judge who wins. All you 3 boys need to keep an eye, okay, on who answers the most questions. So Masjid Quba is the mosque which was built, okay, and he built that with his own hands. And like I said, the Yathrib then became Medina. These are some very old pictures. I thought I'd talk about the history of Medina as well, like we did the history of Makkah. These are from 1896, that picture there, and this one is from 1913, one of the oldest pictures that we've got of Medina. And it was actually then in Medina that the rest of the pillars were then revealed. So remember we said there was idol worshipping going on, people had completely forgotten God, the rich were not looking after the poor, there was no concept of feeling how the poor feel. And then it was all happy times, because by the end of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's life there, everybody was believing in the oneness of God, even Abu Jahl was. Concept of remembering God was there, which is prayer 5 times a day, so you remember God the whole day, not just once. The rich were looking after the poor, which is the zakat, they have to do it. These are all for the first time in any religion revealed pillars that you have to do. There's no other religion where you have to do it. And this is why Islam is such a strong religion. And the concept of feeling how the poor feel was introduced, which is the fasting. We feel how the poor feel. When we feel how the poor feel, we can then help the poor. We can give them food and money. But you can only do that when you're in their shoes. Okay? So, very important to understand, Islam was the only religion out of all the other religions where you have to do it, otherwise you're not a Muslim. It's the crux of our religion. Okay? And that is the beautiful story of the Hijrah. That story marks the start of Islam, if you like, and it was actually later on, we are going to be talking about this in a minute when we do the next part, it was actually Umar who the second Khalifa of Islam, who made the calendar. He had to make an Islamic calendar because there were so many historic events happening at that time which needed to be documented. And it was actually in 639 CE that he started the Hijri calendar. He started it from 1 AH, which is a year after the Hijrah. He chose that amongst all the other Sahabas for the focal point to start the Islamic calendar, because it is then that Islam started. So it was a huge, huge turning point for Islam, was that point where Islam really flourished. And then he chose also for it to happen in Muharram himself, because we don't know when it happened. We don't know which month this happened in, but he chose Muharram for two reasons, okay? The first reason is, before Muharram is Dhul Hijjah, and after Hajj, you come back as a newborn baby where you are sinless. So in a way, you're starting the new year sinless, okay? And the other reason was, by having it in Muharram, you're ending the year with a sacred month, which is Dhul Hijjah, and you're starting the year with a sacred month, which is Muharram. Does that make sense? Okay? This is the reason why they started the calendar from Muharram. All the months were already all there before. Okay? So, he also, there were actually two calendars already around, and they were mainly pagan calendars around the sun. But the original calendar, the Christian calendar, and the Jewish calendar, original calendars were all based around the moon, because people were worshipping the sun, and this is why the calendar was based around the sun, or different cycles of the sun, like it is in England, the pagan calendar. So again, he re-established the lunar calendar because nobody really can worship the moon. People worship the sun because without the sun there's no life, there's no photosynthesis, there's no warmth, the plants don't grow, and then there's no oxygen if there's no sun. Does that make sense? Whereas with the moon, if that went away, it wouldn't do anything, no harm. People are less likely to worship the moon than they are to worship the sun. The sun brings life to the whole world. If there was no sun, there'd be darkness, there would be no heat, okay, no photosynthesis, hence no plants, hence no oxygen, okay? Scientists here will know that. And the Islamic calendar is 29 or 30 days. On the whole, it is 10 or 11 days shorter than the solar calendar that we follow in this country, which is why every year the events go back 10 days. So if Eid is 25th December, then next year it will be, for example, 15th, okay? The full cycle, does anybody know what the full cycle of the lunar calendar is? How many years? Do you know? Yes, Vasila?
33.
Not 33, it's 30. Do you know how I know that? I was born on Eid Day, okay? I was born on Eid Day. I'm not joking, ask my mum. Eid al-Fitr, I was born on Eid al-Fitr after Ramadan. And when I was 30 years old, I'm giving away my age now. When I was 30 years old, it was my birthday on that day. That's how I know. And that's why there's not really any birthdays in Islam, because I would have been one on that day then, 1 year old. But I wasn't, I was actually 30. So that will give you an idea. It's a 30-year cycle where on that same day, the same day falls on that day again. Okay? Right, we're going to have a summary, and I'm putting on a cartoon for the children.
Where is he? 100 camels to the man who finds him! Go! mountains? Are you sure?
Oh, I'm sure. In a few hours, your 100 camels will be mine.
Is he in there? I don't see any footprints.
Oh, he's in there.
There's no way he could have gotten in here without breaking up this web or this nest! You fool!
Later that night, before leaving for Yathrib, the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, looked down on Mecca. It was a city filled with memories for him, where his children were born, where his wife had died. He said, "Of all God's earth, thou art the dearest place unto me, and the nearest unto God. And had not my people driven me out, I would not have left thee."
No man can survive this long in the desert.
Maybe the reports are wrong. Maybe he was caught after all.
He wasn't captured, and he will be here.
He is coming! The Prophet is coming!
For the first time, we were able to worship without fear. The days were long and filled with hard work. But oh, we were happy.
Now be good, Huda. Mind your teacher. Come on, Hadi. I'm gonna stay here and help Papa and Malik build the mosque. After your lesson. The Prophet says you must learn to read. Oh.
Messenger of God, let me carry that. You're the Prophet.
It's time for you to take a rest. The Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, taught us that all Muslims were brothers and sisters, one community standing shoulder to shoulder in prayer. And he wrote a document declaring all people in Yathrib would live as equals, in peace, regardless of race or religion.
What
is it?
He's calling us to prayer.
Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah.
Mama, are we the happiest people who ever lived?
What do you think?
I think... yes. Because...
Yathrib was renamed the city of the Prophet, Al-Madinah.
Okay, did you notice that the people there were a lot more humble? And that's another reason why they accepted Islam. The people in Makkah were very rich and haughty, and the big-headedness that goes with money. And these people were a lot more humble, they were poor, so they accepted Islam. And remember, Islam goes to the people who've got the softest of hearts first, the ones who feel emotion. So that film was actually Muhammad the Last Prophet, just in case you want to know which film that is. And everything that I talked about so far is in this brilliant Seerah of the Prophet, the Sealed Nectar. Okay, this is the best biography of the Prophet that there is out there. So if you want to go and buy it, you can. It's very, very good. It's got everything in detail and it's very authentic. It's all been checked, cross-checked and everything. So the Sealed Nectar is the best biography of the Prophet if you want to read up on that. Now, like I explained, that is the New Year for Muslims. Okay, at the moment, this year, in a couple of days, it will be 1440, 1440 AH. Ever thought of what AH means? Al-Hijrah, the Hijrah. That's how many years it's been since the Hijrah. Okay, now are you allowed to say Happy New Year in Islam? No. The reason is that the Prophet, even in the days when there was different calendars there, he never, ever, ever celebrated the New Year, ever. The only people who celebrated the New Year were who? The pagans of Arabia did, okay? And in fact, there were so many pagan things that did happen in Arabia, and Prophet Muhammad ﷺ actually said that we are not to copy them, we have to be different to them, and what we should do is celebrate the two Eids, and that was the time of the Jahiliyyah, and now it's the time of Islam, and he told us to do what he does, and the two celebrations are actually Eid, okay? So, Happy Islamic New Year, there's no such thing, you can't even trace it, you know it changes every year, and there is actually a fatwa about it as well. I can send this to you if you want to. The Islamic ruling on observing the Islamic New Year, a question was posed to the Standing Committee for Fatwa in Saudi Arabia about this issue, and the response was, it is not permissible to congratulate people on these occasions since observing, celebrating them is not legislated. One of the committee's long-standing members and widely recognized senior authority in Islamic verdicts was asked, there are some people who specify the year's end as a time for special advice, admonitions or supplications. Are these actions correct? No, this is bid'ah. So if you do it, then it's bid'ah. Bid'ah is everything that is opposite to what the Prophet does. It is not permissible to specify the end of the Hijri year as a holiday or as a time for specific greetings, phrases of remembrance or supplications, and basically that is very, very authentic. So be careful if all of a sudden Happy New Year messages start going out. They're actually copying the pagan culture of this country. That's where it's all coming from. There are du'as, however, which are there for the beginning of every month, not just the New Year, every month. So this is a dua which I can send you if you want to. Oh Allah, bring this month or year upon us with security, iman, safety, Islam, your pleasure and protection from shaitan. So that is actually okay, but that's for every month. It's not, doesn't have to be specified for just the New Year. But what is it that we can do in Muharram? Because it's one of the holiest months in the Islamic calendar. Yes.
Voluntary fasting?
Fasting, good. So fasting is something that we can do in the month of Muharram. So Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, said, the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said the best of fasting after Ramadan is fasting Allah's month of Muharram. And that is the same with all of the other months, Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijrah, Muharram and Rajab. The more you fast, the better, because they are extra holy months in which your sins are forgiven. That is why. Okay? Now before we go on to the 10th of Muharram, I want you to do questions on this part so far. So let's have questions on the 1st of Muharram and the Hijrah first, if you've got any.
When the Prophet, peace be upon him, was born, and you said they kind of knew it was a very special time, did they actually know when his birthday was? Because there's some, like, speculation that he did actually know when he was born. He was born on a Monday, and that he didn't used to celebrate, but he used to give sadaqah or something. So is that all made up stuff?
Yes. First of all, the calendar wasn't even made then. The calendar was made afterwards, so nobody knows when he was born. Some people, very weak hadith, say he was born in Rabiul Awwal, but we don't know when. Okay, so that's the first thing. He did used to fast on Mondays and Thursdays. That is authenticated. And Monday, he did say he was born on a Monday, and that's why he fasts on a Monday. But also, he also said that Thursday, all the deeds are lifted up to the heavens, and that's why he fasts. Because did you know on Thursday, before Jummah starts, Jummah is the start of a new week in Islam, all the angels, all your record of deeds, the good deeds you've been doing in the week are lifted up to Allah and recorded up there. And this is why he fasted on Thursday, because he said that that is the day when all my good deeds will be lifted up, and I would like to be fasting on that day. So Mondays and Thursdays. But we don't know for sure when any of these things happened, because, like I said, the calendar was made afterwards.
And as you also said, the date changes by 10 days, so no one can celebrate your birthday.
You cannot trace your birthday according to Islam. Because even if you go back to your home countries and ask your grandmothers, when were you born? I don't know. It just wasn't the custom to record it. And also they'll say, oh, I was born, my mum told me I was born on 1st of Muharram, or I was born in the 3rd week of Ramadan, and things like that. The custom of recording all of that kind of birthdays is a lecture of its own, as you know. Go on my YouTube channel, watch the birthday lecture.
Yeah,
okay. Any more questions? Anybody? Before we go on to the next bit. What I'm going to do now is quickly give you a heads up on 3 upcoming events while I'm here, to keep you all on your toes. The first one is this Wednesday. Should we have faith schools? This is another big debate. And I think especially very specific to me, for someone who's actually worked in 2 Church of England schools and worked in 2 or 3 madrasas as well. So Wednesday, 12th September, the time isn't on there, it's 7:30, and there will be food as well, although I know you're not going to come just for the food. Your intention is to come for this, isn't it? Okay? So that's what's happening this Wednesday. Then there is a mosque open day in Chelmsford. Some of you know that I do a lot of work in Chelmsford. I'm part of the masjid there as well. If you know any non-Muslims, this is only for non-Muslims, please send them along to this open day. It's a big exhibition, and I'll be there to answer any questions. If there's any mosque committee people here, they are allowed to come to have a look around, so you can mimic it here. Because I feel more Islam sometimes is needed in this mosque with the open day, especially recently. We need more of this kind of stuff here without all the other, bits that are going on out there. And then we got another cricket match. This is the cricket match which is done every 3. This is the 3rd year actually, which I organise in Chelmsford. It's an interfaith cricket match. We had one in Romford, which was a great success, and we were all in the papers, and everyone came. It was a really good laugh. Everybody's welcome to come to this. This is in a beautiful village called Willingale. It's really lovely there. We can all have a picnic. There'll be lots of food again, and there are very important people coming to this one. More important people who came to Romford. So the chair of Essex County Council and his wife are coming. The Queen's representative is coming. All the bishops, all the reverends. You name it, they're all coming, because I've got ties with all of them in Essex, so they're all coming, so do join us, okay? Okay then, thank you very much.
Thank you.